There are only two things that I often need repeated. An explanation of why bailing out a high-risk venture capital-backed bank is good for the Commonwealth, and a chord progression that helps me work on my chord tones. So today we're talking about the latter of these two. A chord tone is basically just a note that is in a chord. Some people will be like, well, why do I need to know that a D and an F and an A make up a D minor, other than just for posterity's sake? We're gonna talk about today why it's really important, especially helping with your chord playing, your songwriting, your soloing and everything, okay? So we're gonna start off with a really simple chord progression. It's gonna be in the key of D minor. And the chord progression is just gonna be D minor, C to F. F or F major 7, okay? And real quick, I'll just do an example of what we're gonna do. I'm using a looper pedal, which is sponsored by. So it's gonna sound something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be that kind of vibe that we're going for, and how really searching for chord tones is going to help you land certain notes better than others. So first of all, we need the chords, then we need a scale to work with, and then we need a looper pedal, all right? So the chords I'm playing is this regular D minor triad. I'm playing the 5th fret on the A string, 7th fret on the D and G strings, the 8th fret on the B string, and the 5th fret on the high E string. Now these are just two different variations of the notes D, F, and A. We're going to get to that. Don't worry about having to remember exactly where these are. I'm going to talk about some tricks to help you remember all these. Then I'm going to a C major, which is 3, 5, 5, 5 on the A through B strings. This is going to be a C, an E, and a G. But what's more important is going to the next chord, the F chord, which is an F, an A, and a C. 8A, 10, 10, 10 on the D, G, and B strings, okay? This video is sponsored by Sweetwater. They sent me over this awesome Pigtronix Infinity 3 looper pedal. This is my looper pedal of choice all the time. We're gonna talk about some cool different things you can do with it, why this is my favorite one, but sounds great, plays great, it has all the features that you want. But let's get to just kind of what we're doing over this, all right? So like I said, the chord progression is like D minor to C major to F major, okay? So I'm thinking that this in the key of D minor, the key of F is being like, you know, in the key of F is 6, 5, 1, all right? Now, the reason the chord tones are really important is because landing on these in a solo makes all the difference in the world, as you're gonna hear, all right? So let's talk about the notes in that. The two main chords are really just kind of D minor to F major. That C is just acting as a little spice in between them as a transition. But that D minor is a D, an F, and an A, and that F major is an F, an A, and a C. So these chords are more alike than they are disalike, being as they both have an F and an A in them. D minor obviously has a D as a root, and then F major has a C as its 5th, okay? So let's talk about like where you want to maybe begin a solo or end a solo. So if I have this kind of like looping back and forth, right? So D minor, C, F, all right? Now those F and A, let's start right here. A. Sounds great, right? What about an F? I think you're already getting it, like it really sounds together, it sounds cohesive when you land on those chord tones within a solo. So let's learn the scale that goes with these two chords, and then let's talk about maybe what it sounds like when you're landing on like the 5th of a note or the 3rd of the note, so on and so forth. All right, so D minor scale looks like this. All right, so we've got the low E string, 10, 12, 13. Same thing on the A string, 10, 12, 13. The D string, 10, 12, 14. The G string, 10, 12. The B string, 10, 11, 13. And the high E string, 10, 12, 13, okay? So if we were to talk about the names of these notes, again, you don't have to memorize this. There's gonna be tricks to help you find all of this stuff in any key. But we've got a D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C, D, okay? So this key has one flat and it's B. B has a B flat, all right? So we can keep going through the alphabet just like that. D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F. Okay, so most of what we're gonna do is just gonna be in this one position. All right, and that's why whenever I start and stop this loop, you can tell it's like, all right, I'm starting with that D minor chord and I'm ending on that F major chord, and then it cycles over and over and over again, okay? The reason I really love this looper pedal specifically, which the main reason we're gonna talk about at the end, but look at how much space I have between these buttons. And I have like these giant size 14 feet. So like, it means a lot to be able to have space in between these buttons, trust me on that. So if I have this going, again, I'm gonna start and end on A. In fact, actually, before I get that, let's just go something A to A, all right? Because again, that's the fifth of D minor and the third of F major, so it fits really well in between those. It's chord tone for both of those chords, that's why it's a perfect landing spot for anything that we're doing here. So in that shape, let's think of this as the spot that I want, right? And I can also think of like D minor pentatonic, because a lot of people do pentatonic stuff, which there's no shame in that, but all that's gonna work too. D minor, the D minor scale versus D minor pentatonic is just adding 2 extra notes, so it's good to know both ways. But if I just go from A to A, let's start here. There's that A on the B string. We're gonna think of going back, and then maybe back here. Okay? And then one thing that I'll do a lot, and remember on the D string we said 10, 12, 14, is doing it this way instead, getting the 9th fret on the G string instead of the 14th fret on the D string, is something that I actually use a lot when I'm going backwards more than going forward. But again, that's just up to your taste, right? So let's do stuff that starts on a low A or ends on a high A, something like that. I'm gonna go low. See how I just skipped all the way? So it always kind of serves as a nice bookend. Again, if you do it too many times in a row, it starts to sound like a little bland because you're just bouncing back from a low A to a high A. So now let's do something where maybe for that F major chord, we try to land on a chord tone that is different from where that A is. So we have 2 options. We have an F and a C. F, A, C make up the F major chord. So let's maybe see how it works on both of them. On one time around, I'll just kind of be heavy on an F, and on the other time around, I'll be heavy on an A. And the F that we could choose this high F right here, the 13th fret on the high E string. And then, what did I say? Oh, I was gonna say not an A, but a C. So we'll do the 13th fret on the B string. So either E string or B string. And then we can always just throw in that A for fun. So if we wanted to arpeggiate this, we could go A, C, F. All those notes are gonna sound good over that chord. And really they'll sound good over both chords. F, C, F. When I hit that C over the D, it doesn't sound as good over the D, right? F, C, A. There's the F over the D minor. So I think you can probably already hear that like those notes will sound different over one chord than they might over another chord, okay? So I do think that usually the best sounding notes are either the third or the fifth, because you're kind of adding a melody on top of what the lower chord is doing. If you just really start and end on the root note of the chord, it almost isn't giving you like an extra information thing. I mean, it still sounds fine. Like here, I'll be heavy on like a D for the first part. D over the D minor. Ah, screwed up. There it is. I almost think it sounds better landing on a note that is not the root note, even if it's not a chord tone. All right, so for instance, like some of the times you're landing on a C over that D minor chord. But what happens then is you're taking a D, and F, and A, and then adding a C, and you're really making a D minor 7 chord because you're adding information to the chord that's going on, all right? Now, I do want to talk about why this is my absolute favorite looper pedal of all time. So what I'm gonna do is, basically, there's a lot going on here, but this is start and stop for the first loop. You can just hold the left button there, and that just resets everything. But the number one reason I love this is because you can have 2 different loops going on of different lengths. Some looper pedals have different things where you can do like the same length of loops and have different stuff, but this is by far my favorite because you can kind of set it with these buttons right here. So again, I don't have sync on. This is in like a stereo out, even though it's just going mono out to my Super amp right now. And you can have your loop go in parallel or in series, right? So again, I have this set to green. That means it's in series, which means I can have 2 loops going on at the same of different times. So I'm going to do the same loop again with loop 1, and then I'm going to do a different chord progression on loop 2, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when I end it, I'm going to go to another loop. And then go back to 1. Where's my pick at? I need my pick. And then whenever I want to switch to the other loop, I can have that loop over and over again, and then just switch back and forth between, just like that, right? So again, that's why the Pigtronix, seriously, it's really good. They make an Infinity 2-1 if you want something smaller, but if you really want to take your looper pedal practice seriously, I highly recommend getting this. My all-time favorite looper of all time. My all-time favorite looper of all time. Brilliant speaking today, Sean. Now, another just kind of trick that you can do for like looper pedal stuff is if you play the chord progression with your fingers and then pick up the pick, it'll kind of add a little bit of extra sauce to your soloing, right? Otherwise, you kind of, sometimes you're fighting over like the sound of the loop, even though with this one you can independently control the volume of the loops as compared to what's going through in your master volume. But just as like a quick example, like if I'm just gonna loop something here, like let's do something in G. So it's just a G to B to A minor. Oh, it landed on a B? That's a chord tone for that G. B. What about a D? Let's add in a D the next time. Chord tone. G. Alright, so G, D, B. There's something about always landing on the third of the chord that I think is just like so tasty all the time. And again, if you're in like a minor pentatonic position, the third of the root note, the major, relative major, is always going to be that B string pointer finger. And I think that's just like such a juicy place to land, there or the G string pointer finger, which again is the root note chord tone, G, B, D. Just sounds so good, right? Come on. And again, just press and hold, and then it deletes, you can go on and on. So let me know if you have any questions on the Pigtronix Super, because like I said, all-time favorite. Rocking the Ernie Ball St. Vincent and the Super amp, as always. Like I said, thank you to Sweetwater for sending this stuff over. If you have any questions, there'll be affiliate links in the description for all of them. And if you have any comments, let me know in the comment section or Instagram or the website. I'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks a lot.